My name is Anya. I'm 38, and my own sister, a law firm partner, publicly humiliated me for trying to withdraw $280. Before I tell you how I responded by initiating a $6.8 billion asset transfer that froze their entire system and got her fired on the spot, do me a favor and let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. It's comforting to know I'm not alone. To understand why I didn't scream or make a scene in that law firm, you have to understand my family. For them, I was always less, the quiet one, the one who brought handmade birthday cards instead of expensive gifts. I still remember my 10th birthday. I'd spent a month painting a picture of a cherry blossom tree for my parents, my little hands smudged with pink and green paint. I was so proud. I handed it to them, my heart pounding. My father, Paul, glanced at it for a second before turning to my sisters. Now, Tamsin, Bryn, what did you two get us? They'd pulled their allowance to buy some crystal vase. My mother, Diana, clapped her hands in delight. My painting was set aside on a side table, forgotten. That was the moment I learned my place. I wasn't the smart one or the pretty one or the successful one. Tamsin was the golden child in the professional world, climbing the corporate ladder with ruthless ambition. Bryn was the social butterfly, charming and manipulative, always the center of attention. I was just Anya, the placeholder, the family's quiet, convenient afterthought. This dynamic didn't change as we grew up. It solidified like concrete setting around my feet. Years later, at a family dinner, I tried to share some good news. I'd been volunteering at a local community garden, and we just secured a small grant to build a children's section. I opened my mouth to speak, but Tamsin cut me off, laughing as she announced her latest promotion. The conversation immediately shifted to her new title, her new bonus. I just sat there, my small victory dissolving into silence. The only person who ever truly saw me was my grandfather. Before he passed, he left me a small, worn wooden box. Inside, there was an old-fashioned key and a note written in his elegant script. For the youngest, because she has the biggest heart. Use it when they forget who you are. He also made me the executive of a small family trust fund. Lately, I'd noticed some things in the statements that didn't sit right. Small, odd withdrawals made by Bryn. I'd made a mental note to look into it. The one good thing that came out of being invisible to my family was that it forced me to build a life entirely on my own terms. I had my small, clean apartment, and I had Ms. Chavez. She lived 2 doors down, a 75-year-old widow with a laugh that could fill a room. She was more of a mother to me than my own had ever been. That cold Tuesday morning, Ms. Chavez had called, her voice thin and worried. Her heating was on the fritz, and the repairman wanted $280 in cash up front. "Don't you worry about a thing," I told her. "I'll go to the bank and get it for you right now." Which brought me here. Standing in the cold, sterile lobby of Sterling and Reed Law, waiting in line like everyone else, and standing behind the manager's desk, watching me with a smug little smile, was my sister Tamsin. When it was my turn, I walked up to the teller. Before I could even speak, Tamsin glided over. "Well, well, look what the cat dragged in," she said. "What can we do for you, Anya?" I kept my voice low. "I just need to withdraw $280. She let out a short, sharp laugh. It was a performance. $280? Is that all?" She leaned in, her voice dropping to a stage whisper that everyone could hear. "We don't really serve beggars here. Are you sure you even have that much in your account?" The air was sucked out of my lungs. I could feel the eyes of the other customers on me. For a moment, I saw the 10-year-old me again, and I felt something shift inside me. I was so tired of this. I looked my sister in the eye. I didn't say a word. I just turned and walked out of the law firm, the door hissing shut behind me. At that moment, I thought that was the worst of it. The humiliation, the shame. I was so wrong. The worst wasn't what she had done. It was what I was about to do. That night, the silence was deafening. I made myself a cup of tea. I sat on my worn sofa and I opened my laptop. With a few keystrokes, I bypassed the simple user interface of my life and logged into my real one. The screen flickered and a clean, minimalist dashboard appeared. At the top, in stark white letters against a black background, was a name, Apex Global Alpha, and beneath it, a number, $6,810,475,000. This was my secret. I had walked away years ago. I took the small inheritance my grandfather had left me personally, and I poured all my grief, all my intelligence into the one thing I understood: financial markets. I created a predictive algorithm, a piece of code so elegant and powerful it felt like poetry. I called it Project Phoenix. Project Phoenix wasn't a person. It was an entity, a ghost in the machine, and I was its architect. Apex Global Alpha was the investment fund built on that ghost, and it had grown into a silent giant. No one knew I was behind it. I was scrolling through a list of their recent acquisitions, smaller companies they'd absorbed to expand their retail services. And then I saw it. A name that made my blood run cold. Sterling and Reed Law, my sister's law firm. Through a chain of corporate acquisitions, her employer was now effectively a subsidiary serving my fund. Tamsin worked for me. She just didn't know it. A switch flipped in my head. This wouldn't be a messy, emotional outburst. It would be a surgical strike. At 3:00 a.m., I picked up a secure phone and made a call to my top legal counsel. "Good morning," I said, my voice steady. "I need you to arrange an emergency risk assessment meeting for tomorrow morning with the regional director of Sterling and Reed's parent company. The representative from Apex Global Alpha will be Project Phoenix. Yes, I'll be attending personally." The next morning, I chose a simple, well-tailored navy blue dress. As I stood in front of the mirror, a voice that sounded suspiciously like my mother's whispered in my ear, "Is this necessary, Anya?" I walked over to the old wooden box and took out my grandfather's note. "Use it when they forget who you are." My heart. He didn't say to use my anger or my wealth. He said to use my heart. This wasn't an act of revenge. It was an act of self-preservation. When I walked into Sterling and Reed Law for the second time in 24 hours, the atmosphere was completely different. A nervously looking man in an expensive suit was waiting by the door. This was Mr. Davison, the managing partner. He rushed forward as I entered. "Ms. Phoenix, an absolute honor. I'm Mr. Davison. Thank you so much for coming." Tamsin was standing near her glass-walled office, a confused look on her face. She started to walk over, but then she saw Mr. Davison fawning over me. "Please write this way, Miss Phoenix," Mr. Davison said, gesturing toward Tamsin's office. "So," I began, my voice quiet, "Apex Global Alpha has some concerns." "Ms. Phoenix, anything, how can we help?" "It's not about how you can help," I said, looking from his terrified face to my sister's confused one. "It's about a decision we've already made. Due to, let's call them, serious concerns about the professional culture and management competency at this branch, Apex Global Alpha is initiating a hostile asset transfer." Mr. Davison looked like he was going to be sick. Tamsin just looked clueless. "A what?" she asked. I turned my full attention to her for the first time. "It's a banking term, Tamsin. Let me simplify it for you. It means my fund is publicly declaring that your firm's parent company is too incompetent and too risky to manage our money. We are pulling all of our assets. We're taking all $6.8 billion and we're moving it to a competitor. And per the terms of our agreement, we are required to state exactly why. The reason will be loss of confidence in personnel, specifically personnel at this branch." The color drained from Mr. Davison's face, but it was Tamsin I was watching. The name, Project Phoenix, the impossible sum of money, me, her worthless sister sitting in this chair. It all crashed together in her mind at once. Her jaw went slack. Her eyes widened in sheer, unadulterated horror. You, she whispered, her voice cracking. It's you. I gave her a small, sad smile. Me. I just came in yesterday to withdraw $280, remember? And that's when she broke. Her knees literally buckled and she dropped to the floor in a heap. No, 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 she sobbed. Anya, please, please don't do this. You can't. You'll ruin me. You'll ruin the family's reputation. What will Mom and Dad say? Mr. Davison, his face a mask of cold fury, pointed a trembling finger at the heap on the floor. You did this. You brought this disaster on us. Get out. Get out of my sight. You are fired. Security. As two guards came in and gently but firmly lifted a hysterical Tamsin to her feet, I stood up. I looked at my sister, her face blotchy and ravaged by tears, and I said quietly so only she could hear, "This was never about the money, Tamsin. It was about respect, something you never learned how to give." Then I turned to the petrified Mr. Davison. The asset transfer stands. I walked out of the law firm, the door hissing shut behind me. As I drove away, my phone started to buzz and it didn't stop. A text from Bryn. OMG, Liv, I heard something crazy happened with Tamsin. Are you okay? We should talk. Then another text, this time from my mother, Diana. Anya, please call me. We are all very worried. I let the phone buzz. Finally, as I pulled into my driveway, the phone rang again. The screen read, Diana. I answered it. Anya! Oh, thank God! Her voice was a torrent of panicked words. What have you done? Tamsin is a mess. Her career is over. How could you be so cruel, so vindictive? After all we've done for you, you do this to your own sister? You have to fix this. Think of the family. The last bit of hope in me withered and died. My voice, when I spoke, was colder than I'd ever heard it. You're right, I said. We need to talk about the family. All of us, one last time. Sunday, I said, cutting her off. Dinner at my place. I'll text you the address. Sunday evening, they arrived. My father, my mother, Bryn, and Owen. They pulled up to the address I'd sent, and I watched from the window as they stared, dumbfounded. It wasn't my small, anonymous apartment building. It was a house, a beautiful modern home nestled in a quiet wooded neighborhood. My father was the first to speak, his voice gruff. All right, Anya, what is all this? You've made your point. You're rich. Now you need to fix the mess you made with your sister. Bryn chimed in. He's right, Anya. We're family. Tamsin made a mistake, but destroying her life over it, it's just not right. I let them finish. I let all the poison fill the room. Then when they were done, I calmly stood up and walked to a side table. I picked up a thin, leather-bound file and placed it in the center of the dining table. If everyone is finished talking about how I've ruined a life, I said, perhaps we can talk about how Bryn has been ruining a legacy. Bryn's face went pale. What are you talking about? I opened the file. I'm talking about the family trust, the one grandfather set up for all of us. I slid a bank statement across the table to my father. You see that withdrawal and this one, and this one. And here are the forged invoices Bryn submitted from a shell company she created to justify those withdrawals. For 3 years, she's been stealing from us. The silence was absolute. Owen looked at his wife with horror. My father's face was ashen. You want to talk about family? I asked, my voice breaking. A family doesn't do this to each other. You were never a family to me. You are just shareholders in my misery. This isn't a family anymore. It's a failed business, and I'm liquidating my shares. I looked each of them in the eye. This is goodbye. A few months have passed. Bryn's company fired her after an internal audit, and she's facing legal trouble. Tamsin is working some low-level admin job across town. I'm standing in a patch of bright sunlight. The air smells like fresh dirt and lavender. I'm not in a boardroom. I'm at the new community garden wing of the local library, a project I funded. It's named the Chavez and Grandfather Reading Garden. Miss Chavez is here, sitting on a bench, reading to a group of children. She catches my eye and gives me that warm, crinkling smile. My real family. I bend down and pick up a small seedling. As I place it in the soft earth, I finally understand. The most important transaction of my life wasn't the 6.8 billion Asusat transfer. It was the withdrawal of my love, my loyalty, and my energy from a toxic account that had been bankrupt for years. That account is now permanently closed. I'm finally planting a garden of my own. Thank you all so much for listening to my story. My question for you is this. Have you ever had to make the difficult, painful decision to walk away from a person or a situation in order to save yourself? Let me know in the comments. And if my story resonated with you, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing for more. It really does help.